Ethan on?
No, but Elijah, I was gonna ask if the volume's coming through.
Yeah, it's coming through just fine.
Awesome, thank you. I'm gonna get my laptop set up and then we'll get rolling.
Okay, awesome.
As- since Rachel. I'll be speaking to a lot of it. Okay. I'll call to order the Monroe County Surveyor Review Board meeting for October 15th at 4 p.m. 2024. The first order of business is approval of the agenda. I'll make a quick comment. I wanted to move other discussions, and I'll also maybe kind of chat about that after we go through some of these formalities after the certification of corners, because I think that is one of our main goals. I will also say I'm comfortable with moving forward with the certification of corners, but due to the commissioners canceling their prior meeting, I had to resubmit all the accounts payable claims. So the payment is being processed for this. If you're comfortable with, and I'll also say,
It's fine.
all right. Well, just to kind of be transparent that, since this is a service agreement, and we want to make sure that when we look at these, that we have that payment in place or being processed. So if we do certify them, that there's no concerns with actually being paid at the end. I'm sure everyone understands and respects the fact that, if a client pulls out and doesn't pay, then you have the ability not to sign off the survey or the work. So I just want to be very transparent that I had to resubmit that today. So, the check should be in the mail in the next couple of weeks. And if everyone's comfortable, especially since we went into the service agreement with Ms. Ozer, if she indicates she's fine, then we can proceed. So, I guess I'd be looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda?
Second. Okay, I will also indicate that we have all the board members present, no one online, as far as a surveyor review board member, so we can do voice votes. And so I'll do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Carrying 3, motion passed unanimously. So we will move to approval of minutes from September 17th, 2024.
Who was on the last one was here, so I can motion to approve the minutes of September 17th, 2024.
second.
And we have a motion and a second. I guess I'll go with a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Abstain.
Okay,
I believe we're citing.
you did. Okay, so let me go ahead and redo that, and I'll do a voice vote. Or do a roll call. And the motion was moved, seconded. I'll do a roll call on approval of the minutes. Eric Deckard,
Yes.
Todd Boardman,
Abstain.
Rachel Ozer.
Yes.
All right, motion passed. Thank you. Okay, we are moving right along. We have new business office update. I guess the office update was to parse out maybe some of this. I had talked to a few folks, and it was recommended maybe to try to have a discussion. So we took out the discussion for plat review and put it after the certification versus under new business. So we kind of just had a itemized item to discuss separately. I have no real office updates. Was there anything? Donna, do you have anything? Done. All right, so we'll move along with board member questions. I asked that not pertain to maybe our discussion after the certification. Anyone?
I've got no questions.
Okay. Then we'll move to certification of corners. I will kind of just briefly speak that, this office in 2017, which has actually been some time now, created a PS position, and we started to conduct boundary perpetuation surveys to go with our perpetuation efforts. We've also been saving dollars in our corner fund, and one way to expedite the perpetuation of this county was to enter into service agreements. So as indicated, this is a professional service agreement, and we had Ozer Mapping help us conduct this effort in Van Buren, and we had a survey accompany that, and recovery tie drawings, monument records, tie sheets, however you would like to refer to them, accompanied those, and we're looking at the certification of those. And as I previously stated, that the survey was submitted, we're processing payment, and I want to make sure that we do that prior to the certification, because the work on the survey is not dependent on the certification of the corners, and that this is the best way to make sure that we have, that of handling it. So with that said, we'll move forward like we typically do, which will allow Ms. Ozer to kind of highlight larger concerns. Things that we are curious about is if there's any monument that you found that was lost that you had to establish, or any monument that we have on record that you felt you couldn't hold, or any other issues or concerns that you think should be addressed by the board, that you touch on those as well. And I guess go ahead.
Okay. These 3 section surveys are pretty straightforward. At the north end of the project, there's this big survey by Ray Graham called the Townsend Survey from 1974, which was the origin of a bunch of cut limestone, 4x4 cut limestone monuments with crosses on them. Ray was the county surveyor when he did this, so I think that's why he set the stones at the corners that he was doing for this survey. So they've been a record in the county surveyor's office basically since then. There weren't tie sheets initially. There's just these plaques that are in the county surveyor's files that are, I think, drawn by Ray Graham. The dimensions match that survey, and just through the years, I've found others of them that match Ray Graham work. So I think that's kind of how he kept track of what he was perpetuating. Anyhow, these stones, some of them I can figure out what he found and how he established what he set. Some of them, it's not completely clear what he was up to, but the monuments have been consistently held by everyone since he set them. So all of these cut limestones that you see on the survey are from 74, not from a legal survey. But I did accept them. But when we get to the center of section 19, on this survey, that's along this line, right in it set the center of 19. He set the pins shown on the survey as 10137 and 10139, or pinch pipes. And I did not accept that line. So what he did was he just came over 2640 in parallel with the east line of the northeast quarter of section 19. And other evidence in the south half of section 19 I felt was stronger than that method. And so I disregarded those pipes. And you'll see that there's an rebar that you can kind of graphically tell is online with the pipes, where I had done some surveying there in the northwest quarter and kind of followed this Townsend survey for setting that pin. So what I did, the other big survey in section 19 was, I think it was 1982 or 1983 by Farkas, and he surveyed the west half of the east half. And that is still the same landowner now. And that Farkas survey is the origin of the 1/2-inch rebar found at the north quarter, which you can see is not where Ray Graham had calculated that to be. So Ray had calculated it to be at 2640 exactly, but he hadn't monumented it. And then Farkas proportioned between Ray's limestones on either end and set that 1/2-inch rebar. And then because he was surveying the west half of the east half of 19, he was establishing that entire north-south center of section line. I didn't find any more of his pins on that line, but I did tie into his other pins from his survey. And I believe that the south quarter, which is a Ramsey rebar, was probably set based on either Farkas's survey or the fence lines that run along that north-south center of section line. And the fence lines may have been established based on the Farkas survey, or they may have predated it. I really don't know how. It's all kind of circular. But when it comes to the center of section 19, the way that was established was, you see the 3 pinch pipes along the south line of the northwest quarter, 10150, 10193, and 10195.
Mm-hmm.
Those were all set by Liat. It's an unrecorded survey that's referenced in these A15 and C15, so I don't remember the date. But I got it from Eric Deckard's office, 1979. So in 1979, Mr. Utt set the pinch pipe at 10150 as the west quarter corner of section 19. And he set those pinch pipes along that south line. Both the parties know about the pinch pipes. They built a nice fence based on it, which half of it was built by the township trustee for the party to the north, and the other half was built by the guy to the south, who owns a lot of the southwest quarter and also the land over in southeast of 24. His family's been there since the 1800s. So they're all aware of these pinch pipes, and the fence actually goes up to the pinch pipe at 10150 and then heads south from there. Anyhow, in Lee's files, there's worksheets, right, in addition to the survey. So the survey doesn't show the center of section, but the worksheets indicate that he set this line up based on a fence line that he found. And there's dimensions over to the center something, which he doesn't say what it is. And I think it was probably a fence post because I think he would have mentioned it if it had been a stone. I didn't find a stone there. And the fence post is now a couple feet south, but there's fence remains exactly in line with those pinch pipes through the center of like an 18-inch or no, it's on the tie sheet, maybe 18 or 22-inch oak tree. It was like right through the center of it. And that fence lines right up with those pinch pipes. It all kind of comes to a place where I think the post was. So the way that I set up the center of section 19 was in line with the 3 pinch pipes and at the distance from Leah's worksheets to this place that I think was a fence post. And then on the west quarter, that county line there's actually an rebar at the east quarter of section 24 that he set later. And he set it on line between the limestones that Ray Graham had set and the railroad spike at the southwest quarter that Ray Graham had held. So he didn't, when set the east quarter of 24, he was surveying in Greene County. He did not mention that he was the one that set the pinch pipe at 10150 or say anything about it, but he just kind of held that section line, and the pipe at 10150 is I think it's 9.71 feet west of the county line. If you're going between the limestone at the northwest corner of section 19 and the railroad spike at the southwest corner. So everybody has been holding Lee Utt's corner there at the east quarter. And just holding this straight line between the limestone and the railroad spike. So I did the same thing and didn't hold the pinch pipe as the west quarter corner. I just held it for a line. So I established the west quarter of 19 on line between the Lee Utt rebar at, it's shown as P25, the east quarter of 24, and the railroad spike at A17. And then the intersection of that line between 10195 and 10150 with holding the pinch pipes for that bearing.
And so there's a difference between the pinch pipe and the point that you said there by that 9 feet. Is that what you was coming up with there, Rachel? Was I following you right?
I think so.
Okay.
A15, it should show it in the diagram.
Do you say eight?
So it'll be online, just 9.7 feet west.
Yeah, here's a,
Yeah.
there's the pipe and the fence. And then there's my rebar, which is
9.7.
9.71 feet in from the fence.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I debated about this because
Yeah.
I wish that that when Lee had set the corner to the north of it, he would have held his pipe there and just put a bearing brake, but he didn't.
Mhm.
And so now to be consistent with all the other surveying on both sides, both counties, that would be not holding this pipe. No one has held this pipe.
The one that's held the 10,
10150, yeah, no one's
Okay.
held that.
but they.
Except the landowner who built a fence there. And also the fence was there when Liat surveyed it in the first place. That's how he came up with the pinch pipe.
Mhm.
Yeah, but there's a corner perpetuation done in the 90s by Bledsoe, Rigert, Cooper, James along the Greene County side. They held the Liat rebar, and then they set a lot of the offset corners, but this one they didn't set all the pinch pipe.
They took a pass on it.
Yeah. They had a calculated location by proportion, which is different than where it ended up being by holding the pipes for line, holding the pipes for line east-west. I think it's 5 feet different than the proportionate location would be. It would be 5 feet farther north if it were proportioned. So yeah, that one, and then also the center, those are both. So C15, look at the tie sheet for that one too.
I have the tie sheet up here, but I'm sure easier to look at yours.
C15, it's in line with the fence going south. And it's 3.7 feet north of the fence line going west. But like I said, it's in line with the fence remains in a 22-inch white oak that's 6 feet from it. So here's the white oak with fence remains right through the center of it. And the rebars right in line with that, and then that line continue, lines up well with those three pipes,
And G is
Further west.
how far south is the G?
3.7.
3.7.
It's like it's almost a straight line from one to the other, actually. In just a few minutes.
Yeah, it's not bad. Now this fence line going through north-south through the center of section 19 is not super straight. Um, It can be, I believe, at least 10 feet more, maybe more offline, multiple places, but it ends here. So it's only in the south half of the section. Okay, so before moving on to the corners to the south, do you guys want to talk more about those two or about any of the stuff I didn't really talk about to the north?
North, I really don't have really any questions on the north. It looks to me like you've got stones on both ends. I know the origin of this one now. No. I guess
The
it's,
stones have been tied off prior, but the north quarter was not tied off previously, that half-inch rebar.
and that's what you believe to have been set by Farkas.
I believe it was set by Farkas. Yeah, it matches up well with his survey. His survey, I don't think it says. I might say he said a rebar. I'll check it. See if it's here.
One question that I did have with respect to the north line, any idea what the origin of the half-inch rebar is that's so far south of
Oh,
the,
yeah, that's from the Farkas survey too.
was that an offset
It's a mistake.
mistake?
I don't know if I have a copy of that survey in here. I'll look for it.
North line of 19.
Yeah.
Yeah, over there in the east, northeast.
He's- He surveyed the west half of the east half of the section. And his survey shows, so it's this big, long, skinny survey, right? And then the bottom of it's got a bunch of weird lines around the railroad and everything. But at the top, it shows the skew down to that half-inch rebar, but it calls it the 16th corner. And then when you look at where the north quarter falls, it's within 8/10 of being proportioned to what I measured between the two limestones. So I think he definitely had the two limestones. He set the half-inch rebar at the north quarter, and then somebody just made a mistake on that bearing and set the 16th corner 80 feet south of the line between the two limestones, because I just know he had them, because there's no way he got that half-inch rebar there otherwise.
It's not like a pond sitting here where that one's more.
Offset or anything
No.
like that, really.
I mean, I was like, not really expecting to find the half-inch rebar there, but I did, and it matched really well, and it's a good tie for me to get his survey.
So you're
matched
saying the
in.
geometry, its geometry fit with this?
It did, yeah.
And
yeah.
that it's just, that you just blew the bearing.
I think you blew the bearing, yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
interesting.
that survey is in your guys' files. If you want to look for it, it's in section 19. I think I have it printed in here somewhere, but I just,
A theory or anything beyond a theory location?
well, let's see, it was recorded in 2013.
I only asked because I could then just
So if
copy
you-
the
You could,
ID number.
it's not in your database, but if you look up the recorded survey, I can give you the instrument number. And I'll just keep looking for it in here, because I know I had it printed, but
So I'm circling back to 8:15 again. I don't mean to just be bouncing around. I was still trying to get my brain kind of wrapped around the jog versus the deflection between the east quarter 24 and the west quarter of 19. So had set these things at two different time periods, marking two different corners. And your research shows that didn't see the pinch pipe.
Not that he didn't
Or-
see
or-
it,
Okay,
he just didn't use it.
he didn't use it.
He didn't say, hey, I'm disagreeing with this pinch pipe that I said before. He just he didn't talk about it. I didn't know the pinch pipes were set by him until I found the survey. And
Mhm.
I was looking for the survey because he set up some other stuff through here, some parcel lines parallel with these pinch pipes. And I was like, okay, so it seems like he's holding the pinch pipes down here, even though there's no survey of record, and it's not necessarily where you would think the center was. It's like, where did he come? And I thought, well, he probably has that survey in his files for those pinch pipes. That's why he found it in his.
Yeah, he would have set pinch pipes, and then he was the one that set those gold colored swirly pipes that are now starting to deteriorate rapidly. And
How did he pinch those pipes? How did he
Dick
get them?
Green's junkyard did that for him.
Really? Look at that. I see that in Morgan sometimes. How do they pinch that?
They've just got a set of shears, and they'll have a pipe, and they can run it through, and he just pinch them right off.
I'll be done.
So I, kind of going back on the question on that. So when you established your point, could you explain to me again? So you just pushed through the stone to the north down through the rebar he had set,
No, I actually pushed through from the rebar to the railroad site.
from the
Straight line for the
rebar
whole-
straight up to
Yeah.
that.
P25 to A17.
I
P25 is this.
making it straight, disagreeing with the pinch pipe there.
Mhm.
Okay.
So holding the I just held the Green County line corner.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And you held the A17 monument. that-
Well, that's something else to talk about too, but that railroad spike, we'll get to it, but it doesn't actually affect this particular question as to which corner it is. It just affects, because I would have used it whichever county corner it was for, A17.
The reason that I was going there, I mean, is oftentimes, when you're going down along a section line or a township line, you're deflecting, at each one of these quarters. Why not a deflection versus just straight? Was it just that the possession line, other than what was in 19, agreed better with the rebar here that he said on the east quarter? Am I making sense to you? What I'm
No, the
saying?
possession line is the fence that comes to
Yeah.
that pinch pipe. The possession line is
Is definitely that. Okay.
definitely the pinch pipe. In terms of putting a little deflection in it, I definitely always do that. Like, rather than, how they say to push the closing corner to
Yeah.
the township or range line.
Ended corner.
And I always think that that's just too technical for here. We just put a little jog,
Mhm.
but that's like for a lot more minor, I feel like a lot more minor of a jog, like where it would move it like half a foot,
Mhm.
then I just put this little bearing brake there. But this is 7 feet.
Right.
So it would be like,
So it was really
I
a
mean,
hard
that would
skew.
be-
Well, it's
yeah,
hard to
that
see
would
on
be
that right
it's-
there.
It's 90 feet between them. Just doing it
10
90
feet.
point, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Well, that ain't,
And then I just have, all these surveys like in section 24 where everybody's holding that straight line between rebar and the railroad spike.
gotcha.
Nobody is putting a jog in that line. I could have, actually didn't really consider it though. I would have considered it more like thinking of not holding Leah's reefer, I guess. like holding both, I couldn't really,
Considered that
didn't
as
really
much.
consider that as much, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm open to considering it, thinking about it right now.
But you say Lee subsequently came back and didn't hold it himself
That's true.
for a Green County
Lee
survey.
did not hold it.
But we've got a possession line, 9 feet.
How many years apart were the two surveys that we did?
He's 90s probably, I guess. He's set rebar versus.
79 for that one, and then let me look at P 20. $19.90.
Over or something like that. Did you reference that rebar on the survey?
You mean the pinch pipe?
Oh, yeah, yes, sorry, yes.
I don't think so. No.
That's what I was wondering too, whether or not he had even recognized his own monument there.
I don't see how he would have not seen it, because it's like right at a fence post and it's sticking up. I mean, like, it's not the kind of monument you miss. This guy, Buskirk, whose fence it is, keeps the tidiest fence line ever. I mean, it's like this amazing path to walk through the woods along this fence line.
It's correct.
So there's just no chance. I mean, he knows about the pipe. He's not gonna let anybody else not know about the pipe. I'm sure Lee saw the pipe. He just didn't hold it.
I mean,
And I guess, yeah, that's the strongest reason for me not holding it. It's just that he didn't hold his own pipe. He was surveying
It looks
for
to me-
Spark, I think.
You want me to bring, is this the same survey?
You're not gonna be able to bring it up. I should have brought my laptop because
I think I see what he's done. I mean, just from,
you
Bird's eye
did a
view.
bunch of surveying over there in the Sparks ground too, right? I don't know if you remember it in here.
looks like he's went from this pipe here, and I see he's got a rebar here, and we got a stone here. This all lines up.
Well, and he actually set that quarter corner at the split between the
At-
stone
This,
here and the railroad spike down there. And yeah, all that stuff there is on the thing, except 10203 is another pinch pipe that was set on the survey for Jolly, which is the survey of origin for all those pinch pipes. So on that one, that was predating him accepting the stones and stuff that Ray Graham had said. And I don't know if maybe what happened was maybe the 1974 survey by Ray Graham, perhaps Leah didn't have that in 1979 and didn't know about all those stones that Graham had set for this Townsend survey. You know, maybe he didn't know about it then, but then he found out about it later and then decided to hold the stuff when he came back surveying that he
So-
hadn't held in 79.
So Lee's second monument is also at odds with the fence.
Second monument.
that would be,
The east corner of 24 is at odds with the fence, right? It's not on the fence.
it's going north. is-
There's no fence going north. The fence corners there.
Oh, okay.
There's no fence going north at all to through any of these rebars and pipes and stuff that I visited. They're all just out in the woods. And all this property to the west has been surveyed and divided a lot there in Everett Lane. There's a lot of parcels in Greene County.
What do you think they're relying on, Rachel?
They're all relying on Lee's
Rebar.
rebar.
So everybody in Greene County is relying on the rebar. And then we've got Buskirk that is relying on where his fence is at in the pipe. Fair statement.
That's right. Yeah. And I mean, I told Buskirk, well, I don't know if I'm going to hold the pipe or not, but
Mhm.
fence where the fence is. I mean,
Right.
So don't get too upset if you see a rebar show up. That's going to be showing where the county line comes through officially, but,
Mhm.
and I never talked to him again after that, so I don't know. He could have pulled the pin up. I know. I mean, he was nice and everything, but that pipes, he didn't know where it had come from. He knew it was from a survey.
Gotcha.
And he knew about all those pipes along his line, but he didn't recall who had done the survey or anything like that. But he would have been a kid in 79 or a young adult.
So you mentioned you do not think that we had Graham's survey.
No, this is a theory.
Okay,
I'm sure he had it by the time he surveyed there in 1990,
90.
because he held the limestone and stuff.
Mhm.
But did he have it when he surveyed in 79? Maybe not. It's not a recorded survey. I don't really know how stuff worked in the 70s in terms of how did you get records from other surveyors? How hard was it? Could you just come down to the county surveyor's office and get a copy, or
Well, they did.
were they being
Just for
clean?
I spent probably the better part of 5 to 6 years just looking for surveys for
uh, surveyors, and I would say more often than not, I'd actually just find one of their previous surveys and tell them the job number, and they'd go and pull it. So, I mean,
That's not the
I-
70s though.
that's not the 70s, but I'm just saying in the early 2000s, I started in 2005, and I know Mr. Decker used to call too, and then a lot of other folks like Ben Bledsoe, Steve Smith and such that, they were just looking for all the information they could find. And I kind of served as a conduit between different firms to try to find information. So, I do think there was still, a challenge to get, a comprehensive compiling of every bit of survey work that was conducted in the, any given part of the county. So, um, ultimately, that's one of our goals here, right? Is to try to compile as much as we can and try to create more of a comprehensive understanding of how the county was perpetuated, which is going to lead us into some of these discussions where, one surveyor determined to, you know, render their opinion, hold their position, and then, maybe another surveyor didn't, or maybe they didn't have the appropriate evidence, but I know we all know that, but so this is more lip service for the public, but it also is kind of one of the larger challenges that we have here today in Monroe County. Because like, I guess what I just alluded to, that I've worked with a lot of professionals of trying to figure out where all the surveys were, and that's always been a challenge.
I guess the reason that I would just assume that he didn't have the Townsend survey is because that survey with the pinch pipes was like local evidence, here's a fence post. That's what made me think he had a fence post at the center, just based on the sketches in there and stuff. So I just assume that he was just going based on, I'm breaking down a whole section, but here's a post, that's the west quarter, going with it. And then later he's doing more extensive work in the area, gets the Townsend survey. And I can't tell for sure though, because I don't know if you've been through his files in Eric's office, but
no, I'm not.
they're by section. So like, there's a bunch of Townsend surveys with caps.
Bullied or whatever.
Well, this survey is in that file, all calced up, with notes all over it. He definitely had it
Right.
at some point, but did he have it when he did that? It's like, well, I don't know. It's all in the same folder.
You almost gotta go through layers and see who he was working for at the time, even though he would have had multiple people. You don't shuffle that folder, because if you go through those layers, you'll find all the deeds that would have been associated with that survey at that time. And then you'll find the next layer that would have been for another survey that would have been all kind of compiled. I don't know. That's just been my rhyme or reason.
So
Sifting through it.
I don't think, I was not looking at it with an eye of, did he not have the Townsend survey at this time? I think I was looking at it more like, yes, I found where the pinch pipes came from. Just like, I don't remember really thinking about the Townsend survey that much. It went in the file, but
I think it's just noteworthy to note that, hey, that we've got some unwritten rights associated with this fence line down.
Oh,
through
yeah,
here, and
absolutely.
That's it. And
I mean,
No, I think-
honestly, this survey, I can change the survey, like, it wouldn't change anything else if I did put a big jog out to that, and I would consider it, but I'd have to go back and look at all the deeds and surveys there in section,
It would change everybody's surveys to the west.
yeah, look in section 24 again and just think about like, I mean, we could bring up the Greene County GIS and see how many parcels are along there, but it's, you know, it's gonna have it would have effects to not, like I said, no one's held that pinch pipe, but then everyone sees that.
I'm just, that's the part that I just can't get past, that it's been surveyed through there so many times and no one else has,
Held that pinch pipe.
yeah, and it obviously was there first, you know, it was there first, you know,
Mhm,
it just seems logical, that's what you would want to hold. But
mhm.
for some reason, no one has decided to do that.
But if you were gonna put a break, you would put it at the standard corner, the east quarter corner, not the closing.
So at P25, that's what
Yeah.
you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way to put a break would have been to establish
So
P25.
you'd have had to throw it out if you'd put a break at the other time.
Well, I mean, I don't have to make a decision about P25.
Right. Well, yeah,
I mean, not if I'm holding a found monument
right.
at A15, but
It's definitely not a decision that can be weighed at this scale, I guess, you know, because when you get down into the weeds of it, each one of these surveys that could be touching this line could have a different result here, depending on whether you're surveying in section 24 or 19. So
I can say I would have done what she did. I would have done exactly what she did.
I could see it going both ways, and I have no preference one over the other. I understand what she's done, and that's the
Mhm.
most important part, that I understand what it is that she did. But, you know, for the next surveyor come along, depending on whether they're in 24 or 19, they got to take in consideration what's there.
And can I just throw in one comment after that? And who knows if anyone ever watches this, but like, you know, a lot of this can be addressed in the theory of location. So it just kind of goes to Eric's point, and I think it's a very valuable to the public that, you know, sometimes we're not going to be able to drill into, you know, certain impacts like, you know, property rights, unfortunately. But I do think this compiles the information in a way that, you know, if it ever becomes a civil issue, then, you know, at least they have it all kind of documented and, you know, I don't know how many of you have ever seen one of these cases adjudicated, but I think being able to put this information on a monument record, but also having a survey that perpetuated up that whole county is kind of one of the best ways, in my opinion, that we can move forward with perpetuating the county. So sorry again, lip service for the public, but you know, I think it really does bring some understanding to kind of what we're attempting to do here in Monroe County.
So moving forward on this, how do we want to handle this? Do we want to pause for a second and go ahead and accept or whatever with this group of monuments? Are we gonna go through all of
I
them?
think that's a good idea.
It would be the pleasure of the board. So
oh, well, if we're gonna, I actually would like to kind of finish talking about 19, probably, because they'll go to, this is like the only bad section in this survey.
Okay.
So I know it's taking them a while, but
Nope.
if you guys don't care,
No, go right ahead.
I touched on C17. That's the south quarter. It's a Ramsey rebar is right in the middle of Elrin Road. It lines up with that pinch pipe at 105/35. Pretty well, if you're taking that up to the center I established. I think in the report, I say how far off 105/35 is. I'm pretty sure it's less than a foot. And it lines up pretty well with the fencing in and around 105/35. But as I said, the fencing along the north-south center of section 19 is not very straight. But I don't know how Steve Ramsey established that. I don't have a survey for it. It wasn't proportioned. So what I think he did was, I think he either had monuments from that Farkas survey that we've discussed that he tied into, or else I think he just found fencing up through the north line. And then that's kind of my guess is that he found fencing along the line between the southeast and southwest quarters of 19 and used the intersection of the center line of the road along with that fencing to come up with this corner location. Because the Farkas survey wasn't recorded until 2013, even though it was from the early 80s. So Steve, I don't know when Steve's survey was, but if it was before 2013, then he wouldn't have probably known about the Farkas survey. So anyhow, that's my theory as to where that rebar came from. It's been accepted, not a lot. It's been accepted by Doug Graham and by me. But when I accepted it, I wasn't doing anything with it. So it's not a very valuable acceptance, I guess. I just was kind of breaking down a section and found it. But because it matches up with that fencing to the north and the as-built center line of the road. And also, I think I maybe need to open it up 317 and talk about the other thing I liked about it, or maybe it was, it's the 26, yeah. With section 30, there's two stones to the south of this Ramsey rebar that match up like perfectly. Pretty much, I mean, that's pretty much perfect. 2 seconds on the bearing to Ramsey's rebar. And the distances are really good too, proportionally. If you guys are looking at section 30.
Yeah.
So that's just other evidence in favor. I mean, it's like the bearing is so perfect that it makes me think, is that how Ramsey came up with this? But I just really don't, just doubt that he, I doubt he broke down, went to those two stones just to set this north border. Because that wouldn't be how you do it anyways. So like, why would he do that?
I would guess he set it in the road at the extension of the fence.
Yeah, that's what I think happened, but then it matches so perfectly that it's just like, ooh, look
Yeah,
at that.
scary.
Yeah.
We're not far, we're gonna go fence.
The one to the north?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see what I'm talking about, Eric?
I do, yeah,
C21 and C19.
that's, wow.
So yeah, I held that Ramsey rebar. And the point of talking about it so much is that there's just like not a prior high card, not a lot of acceptance, no actual survey of origin, doesn't match up with proportion. But I still like it just fine. The only other, I didn't have any record of anybody establishing that south quarter of 19, but I do have an rebar at 102.42, which you can see on both surveys. It's the line between 19 and 30, where he had accepted, coming from the railroad spike over to E17, so the southeast corner of 19, just as a straight line. And this Ramsey rebar is not on that straight line between those two railroad spikes. It's not on the, it's not in the proportionate location either. So I think in C17's theory, I talked about, where I mentioned, that uncertainty as to the difference between where it would be proportional and where accessible.
7.8 feet west and 12.1 feet south.
Yeah, and I went and got the railroad valuation maps from the early 1900s to see if they had anything shown. And there was nothing on there that was helpful. This location is just the, where I was searching for a stone is in a railroad, in the railroad right of way.
But if you put it 12.1 feet north, you mess up a lot of people's access to the road too, right?
It wouldn't, yeah, I mean, I think the road is better evidence.
Yeah, I agree.
Of
I
of
agree.
where that was.
That's what I was thinking too, but it does almost look like he projected out to the center of the road. I mean, that cannot be just, I mean, that's amazing.
Oh, those stones to the south?
Yeah.
I know, isn't that crazy?
That's just, wow.
2 seconds.
I wish I knew what he'd been surveying, but
Right.
I mean, it could have been to the south.
And
And I
that,
talked to the landowners to the south, to several of them. It's a big family.
and it's lining up with that too. How
Uh,
far is,
I have
that
to
looks awful close. I mean,
I'd have to look at how
Yeah.
far that was. 105.35. Everything that's noted with a number is in the report if you want to know more about it. And then there's also coordinates for all of that in there because I didn't put bearings, all those small things. 1.6 feet, Eric. But it was also laying down
that's
almost.
close.
Yeah.
Possible.
Yeah, so E17, E15, E13C, and A13 are all just already tied off, and I didn't have any issue with what's there. Actually, we could talk about E15 because it's really far from the fence. That's the east quarter of 19.
Okay. Yes.
E15,
15.
17.2 feet west of the fence. This monument's been, it was set by Ray Graham in 74, accepted by Ben Bledsoe, Ray Graham, Jim Zimmer, and Eric Deckard. I don't know what the deal with the fences. The 3/8 inch rebar shown at 101.67 lines up with the fence within a couple feet.
Okay.
Eric, that if you're wanting to remember your survey, it's Cardwell. There's a guy he's a realtor. He has like a
Mhm.
house up there on Elrain Run around.
Yep, that
Like a
would
big
be,
white house.
yep, he lives up on top of the hill there above the railroad.
Yeah,
Yep,
he's kind of been acquiring
yep,
tracks around there, and you've done a bunch of surveying.
yep,
Um,
I recognize that, right?
So he owns to the north and the south. Actually, I think he might own to the east of it now too. It starts with a J.
To the Cakespeare.
Yeah. Um, So I didn't actually consider doing anything different on this one. I'm just saying like the fence is very far from it. When I talked to him, he said, oh man, I kept looking at it. I just wasn't looking in the right spot. But I think you know where it was when I met him because you showed him to him. But yeah, so the other big issue here in this survey is the southwest corner of section 19. There are 2 railroad spikes there. I did not hold the one that the county has as the record monument. Oh, maybe we want to pull up A17 or go to A17 in your packet. So I'll give you a little breakdown here. This Townsend survey by Ray Graham. He shows this railroad spike that's at A17. And he shows it in line with the fence in going into Greene County. They're supposed to be a 5.28, 5.28 foot offset. And he doesn't say what corner it's for. And then the little survey I showed you guys that was from the county surveyor's office records that I thought was a Ray Graham that shows
That right there.
no,
But not the one.
this one.
Oh.
The little like sketch. He has that railroad spike as indicated on here as being the southwest corner of section 19, same distance as this railroad spike. So, darn it, I should have practiced this.
No, I mean, I get,
It was so fresh just a month ago and now, like,
Yeah, you came and went through this with me for a long time.
102.28. If you look at the other survey history on A17, there's like a bunch of italics. And that's me explaining which railroad spike the different surveyors accepted, or which corner they accepted that same railroad spike as. So essentially what's going on is this railroad spike has been accepted as the corner for Greene County and for Monroe County interchangeably since the 70s. And then in 1998, Ben Bledsoe did a corner perpetuation for Greene County, running all the way down through all these lines that this survey shows. And Ben analyzed the different, deeds and surveys and everything, and decided that he was going to hold the railroad spike as the Monroe County corner. It was also of record in Monroe County at that time. There was a tie sheet. And so he set the railroad spike 5.28 feet south. And you can see that railroad spike that he set 5.28 feet south noted on the survey as R25, 102.27.
Okay.
So that would be the Greene County corner. Then in 1999, so 1 year later, Leah was surveying in section 30. He was surveying a little triangle right here in section 30 between the railroad and the section corner here. And this is where this rewire 102.42 came from. And he said, no, that railroad spike that Ben held as the Monroe County corner is the Greene County corner. So he set the Monroe County corner 5.28 feet north. And he called up Kevin and said, you got the wrong corner tied off. It should be 5.28 feet north. I said a railroad spike. So Kevin came out and he tied off the right corner in 1999. That's the corner that's of record right now in the county surveyor's office. Then in 2003, Leah was surveying in section 30 again, and he held the railroad spike that he said was wrong that time. And no, I didn't find any record of anybody ever holding the one that he set in 1999.
All three still there.
No, I could not find the one he set in 99. The road has been, paved and torn up and various stuff happened to it. So I don't know. I dug a bunch of holes in that road. We patched them all. Except not the one with the actual railroad spike in it, but all the other ones. Yeah, I didn't find the other railroad spike, but I did find like a stump and I can't remember exactly what, but I found stuff from the tie sheet, from Kevin's 99 tie sheet, and also tied into Lee's 99 survey to know that that I had the darn railroad spike straight, because when I first went out there, I thought one was a different one from what it was. And you can tell that that might be where some of the confusion has come from about these. They're too close together, and so people grab the wrong one. And when it comes to the road intersection, it's like, it's just like a really wide intersection. So it feels like it's in the center line, but really they both kind of feel like they're in the center line. And then if you go to the west, that fence line, I only walked 400 feet or something, but it's just a tree line now. It's not a distinct fence line where I didn't see fence visually. I'm sure there's fence there and then, on the ground. But there's not anything distinct enough that I would be able to say this rebar is lining up with that. So yeah, since 98, when the second rebar was set, Steve Campbell held the Monroe County rebar as the Greene County rebar. Then, like I said, Leah held the Monroe County rebar as the Monroe County rebar. Then Marty James held the Monroe County. No, the Greene County rebar is the Greene County rebar. And then I held the Monroe County one as the Monroe County. So one person has disagreed basically since then. So it's just been very back and forth. But the bottom line is that this railroad site that Ben Bledsoe said is the corner for Monroe County, and then the second railroad spike that he said was the Greene County corner, was the basis for his proportions all running down that Greene County line. He said all these Harrison monuments, and they're all based on that breakdown. And then I know that railroad spike was held by Ray Graham here in the 70s as the Monroe County corner, and it was the corner that was of record for Monroe County up until, we didn't accept it. So all those things led me to say, I'm going to go back to what was held as the Monroe County corner before Leah set that third monument that isn't there anymore. So there's 5.28 feet of uncertainty.
Said they want to between them and call it those corners. Now your uncertainty will be down to 2.7.
I mean, there actually is like the dimensions on some of these surveys have actually a couple feet of flop in them.
Yeah.
That does make it seem like maybe there was another railroad spike in between, but I don't think that there actually was,
Yeah.
because this one's pretty deep.
Go into the deep ones, you got multiple. Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely questionable, and that's definitely throwing out an existing tie. It
Okay.
sounded like when Mike and I talked about it, like you would have, you could have gone either way. And
I'm just glad you made a choice.
I'm not saying if you were surveying in Greene County, you wouldn't hold this as the Greene County corner as well. I just think it's the Monroe County. It might be both. So that's it for section 19.
5 feet being railroad spike in the road, that's,
Hard to.
Yeah.
It's just an uncertainty. We don't have a crystal ball.
Well, I really wasn't interested in setting a third railroad spike, where you can see them all three on that.
yeah, I know what. Is that all?
That's it.
Wanted to go
That's
over
what
on
I
19.
wanted to go over all of 19 as
Before
a
we-
unit. Yeah.
Yep.
And what I was alluding to with Tron with A17 was that I had held the line from the railroad spike A17 to P25 to set the west border. And what I was saying is even if we had set another railroad spike 5.28 feet north, it still would have been I would have had it on that same line.
Yeah,
So it didn't really
yeah,
matter
with
which.
that in at a half mile away,
Yeah.
that's not making any difference.
You guys want to know any more details about any of these corners we talked about. Or look at the high sheets of any of them or anything.
I'm okay with what we've got here on 19. Todd, where are you at?
I'm fine with it.
I'm sure it's probably apparent, but just make sure that, Scott, if you have any questions or thoughts, since you're kind of following along, feel free to kind of comment or ask,
Makes sense what you did to me.
yeah. I just, like I said, I figured it was probably apparent that,
I think actually helped with the Green County survey on
Oh, sure.
perpetuation.
well, then if you'd like to move along.
Well, Eric had talked about wanting to certify
Oh,
someone.
you want to do one section at a time?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's just, it's just
Pleasure of the board.
so how many of these do we want to, so all of these here at the quarters contract, Rachel, none of them were excluded along the north.
Yeah, everything box, but not the Green County ones that are box.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the start with
Are
Van.
you just reading off the survey?
Okay, so motion to approve Van Buren A13, A15, A17, C13, C15, C17, Van Buren E13, E15, and E17.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. I don't want to take too much away from moving forward, but I meant to mention something that one reason we're really focusing on the county boundaries is because a Senate bill or House Senate Enrolled Act 382, I think, talks about kind of using technology and GIS in a way where I felt like the best way to try to perpetuate out the county was to perpetuate out the county boundaries and contain any uncertainty within those county boundaries. And that's why we moved from our systematic approach of Clear Creek to the county boundaries. And I just wanted to make note of that. And as we're have a motion and a second on the floor of doing another section that runs along the county boundaries, that was actually even just commented on this, I think helps the adjoining counties as well. So, continually excited to, be working with everyone and doing this work, and I'll leave it there. I just wanted to mention why we springboard from Clear Creek to the county boundaries, and that was because of what was going on at the state legislature, and I felt like to protect the county's interest, it was to perpetuate the boundaries of the county. So, and then another, I think, thing that's notable, and I know everyone here has heard it, but who knows who's going to cherry pick a meeting or not, is there are monuments that have been hold that are continuing to be hold, some that we just looked at that look not in the best shape, or there's other evidence that really then kind of disputes that, and we're able to try to correct the record as we move forward. And I think that's very valuable too. And then not only does a lot of this work that we're doing meet a higher standard of perpetuation of conducted by this office, like having a PS, having a perpetuation surveys accompanying that. It also has, the collection of coordinates. So, we can really do a good job of reestablishing that position if it's ever obliterated or lost. Well, I guess hopefully it can't be lost now if we have really good coordinates on it, but you never know what can happen. So, that's the extra value that we're getting from this approach that will benefit Monroe County. And I just wanted to take a quick moment to highlight that. So with that said, I'll go ahead and rephrase your motion and then call a roll call vote. So we're looking to approve Van Buren A13, A15, A17, or Van Buren C13, C15, C17, Van Buren E13, E15, and E17. And we had a a motion and a second, and I'll go ahead and do a roll call. Rachel Oser,
Abstain.
Todd Borgman,
Yes.
Eric Deckard.
Yes.
All right, we have a motion of 2-0 and 1 abstention. Motion pass. And if you'd like to move us to the next corner or section 30.
Section 30, C19, stone with an X on it, is not at the fence corner. I found it previously surveying for the south, the joinery to the southeast. I think it's 7 feet from the fence. C21 is another marked stone that's previously tied off by the county. E21 southeast corner is a pipe that's tied off by the county and been used by a bunch of people. It's not quite in the center line of the road, but it's pretty close to the middle of Stanford Road. So the southwest corner is the Harrison Monument. And the west quarter is also a Harrison Monument. They were both by Benefits 1998 survey for Greene County. I wouldn't have set the one at A21, the southwest corner where it is. Because there's a rail post.
Which one is this one here?
A21 southwest corner of section 30.
Okay.
Here's the tie. You can see the purple is the fencing. So there's these rail fence posts that were held by Henry Dorman in 1967. Yeah, but then Ben proportioned these two corners and set to Harrison. And they are, let's see, E is 8.3 feet north, the Harrison is 8.3 feet southeast of the rail post. And I believe the Greene County corner is it's like a similar kind of distance off. So a little more off to the south and then also off to the west.
That's the one I talked to her about. I was like, I can't imagine being the first person in there and not
Not holding those
holding
rails.
those around. I can't imagine
Yeah.
lead so not.
I feel, man,
But
I
then,
feel like I've been there.
oh, you have, yeah. Leah, Jim Tibbet, Eric Deckard, Randolph Compton, me, we've all accepted the Harrison since then. It's been the county corner of record since 2008. It had a sign by it. They're sticking up out of the ground. The Greene County one is way less obvious. It's below grade and it's not got a sign by it or anything. So I doubt the landowners know about it. Yeah, there's certainly uncertainty in that monument. But because of its long-standing use and being in the county corner of record, I did accept it. So, and again, I mean, I said I had accepted it before, but it was also in that same section breakdown survey I was talking about where I didn't use it to establish anything else. It was more like just proving that what I had found, the stone that I found worked at the center. That's why I visited that.
Did Blitzo write any type of report?
Yeah, he didn't. I have it here.
Why did he say why he didn't like those?
Oh, I think it's because no, I looked at it. Yeah, he didn't mention them at all. But it was 98, so everything was being proportioned then. It's not surprising.
So we did have the rail post and concrete as the corners previously.
No,
Henry Dorman held them, she said, in the 70s.
that's the 2008 tie sheet, right? We held the Harrison. expected. We knew about the railroad
Mhm.
posts. And I don't think. Yeah, Ben didn't talk about them in the survey. And I don't think they're even,
Was they even on one of the little sketches?
that's what I don't think they're even on the tie sheet or,
Can you believe that?
I can't, I just can't imagine being the first person in there after
They
Dorman
didn't make the ties.
and not,
not even
Yeah. yeah, at this point in the game, it's kind of like,
section,
As of that, here, where they told you to break everything down.
yeah, it is.
That's why.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He was doing it by the book and it was, I mean, it is like not the least bit surprising to me that that's what happened at that time. I don't think that that's probably what Ben would do right now. He was breaking that down, but
Pogolitis. That's what they call that.
yeah.
But now, I
See
mean,
that.
yeah, well, you went from guys that
Oh,
are
there it
surveying
is.
along the fence lines to being
Yes.
co-goes.
it's got the fence, it just,
Okay.
it doesn't say it's railroad rails. Um, And they're not used as ties on.
And you can see that this jog actually,
It's the same.
I mean, it's just,
Oh, yeah, the fence posts are, I talked about it in here. What corner was that? A21? Henry Dorman accepted fence corner post at this corner and another fence corner post 63.5 feet north. We found railroad rail fence posts 63.6 feet apart, so I think they're the same posts. that Dorman had. Or at least in the same location, and it's supposed to be a 66 foot jog. Yeah, so I'm just trying to talk about what's questionable. If you guys want to question it more, go for it. A19 is also set proportionately.
I mean, I feel like what we have here is, once again, you've got these survey markers here that's going to be marking the corners. And now we've got fencing that is going to be different that people have relied upon, surveys that they've relied upon. And now it's going to become a situation to a title, it being a title corner, these railroad riders being title corners.
To me, it's just, I mean, what's the most reliable evidence of the original corner? When you've got a long-standing railroad, somebody took a lot of care to stick a railroad rail in concrete there. They had some idea,
Somebody knew something.
they knew something, yeah, and now we come along and say, oh, sorry, proportionally, it doesn't fit.
Here's the Dorman survey, if anybody wants to.
I would be interested in seeing a Dorman survey.
I mean, I don't know
Nice
how
survey.
long it takes, like, how long does it take to have? The Bledsoe monuments have been there since 98 and been relied on since 98. That's a pretty long time at this point.
6 years.
And so throwing that out seems extreme, but what if they had only been set a year ago? Then I wouldn't feel
Mhm,
nearly so,
mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
it wouldn't be so hard to not accept them. And I don't know at what point it,
So if you're asking, I mean, I would say generational, how long is a generation? It depends on, most people say that, but I mean, to me, you figure the average person lives to 75, their kids are probably 45, so that would be the next generation. So you're in that 30 years, usually I consider a generational change.
But the fencing still isn't agreeing with these new monuments, right? I mean, the fencing is still on the
it
old.
hasn't moved, yeah.
it won't move.
No.
I mean, these things are in concrete.
Oh, man,
Crazy.
somebody could move it.
Yeah. Had a dozer.
We had one in Morgan where a guy came in and did just this. I mean, he threw out, we had rebars in the middle of the road at a fence, but he went to the only monuments that were of record in proportion, sets his monument 12 feet off the fence and 8 feet south of the center of the road. And you're like, none of us accepted those. We were like, we threw it out and went back with the reamer in the middle of the road with the fence extended, which has a cat, all-the-way cat.
Rachel, you done what I would have done.
I know, because you held that monument too.
All right, you got me.
But I mean, I don't know what you would do right now.
I mean,
If
I
it
would
was
do
one
this,
of
I
them.
would do the same thing, still yet today. It's kind of hard to go against that.
Yeah, and the fact that the two posts are 3 feet, that's the one thing that would bug me about using it. It's supposed to be 66 and they're only 63.
3.5.
It's almost like, okay, one of them's not right.
Well, because that is a short enough distance that the landowner could have got it correct, or if there had been stones there,
Yeah,
they could have got it right.
yeah, you would think they'd been better than that.
But they could have been old wood posts that were replaced, that the post was on either side the wrong way, and it's,
What if somebody,
I know if there was nothing there, I would have held it.
oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, no, it's like in Hamilton County up there, Brian Gatlin, he has almost half of Hamilton County, he set in the wrong spot. So I don't know if you know this or not, but so this is when GPS first came out. And so he calculated everything correct, but when we went back to read monuments, somehow in the GPS, he got a setting wrong. So he set everything, it's kind of like the international feet thing. So every monument that he set is like 3.5 feet northeast.
Yeah.
And everyone up there knows it.
The trans, no trans.
So, yeah, no, that's, he did.
So is everybody holding the monument?
Yeah.
Because they're the monument.
Yeah, but everyone knows, like, I was told that when I worked a while, I had everything up there that he said is off. But everyone's still holds it.
Well, I know I used to set, I always set in my private work, my GPS receiver from grid to ground. So I was actually measuring ground distances. Well, if you ever forget to change that and go back and look for a control point and you're on grid, yeah, it throws you, you're like, whoa, why am I not finding anything?
I'm just checking over A19. There's a small issue of the wrong monument being grabbed for Green County. But it wasn't like on purpose. It was just Marty James grabbed it, the wrong monument. And then Eric followed Marty. And it didn't really affect their surveys because they were just breaking down the section. And I know it's just the way that they were set. I mean, there's no reason that you would choose the wrong one on purpose. It was just a mistake. So I just noted it, but I don't think it's important. The monument not lining up with the fence remains and the fence to the east is probably more important. Which you can see on the tie card for A19. But it's under common ownership all around this corner. And there's no possession right at the monument. It's in a heavily overgrown area. Couldn't find a stone. And held the Harrisons. You guys want to talk about that one anymore?
This is A19.
Yeah.
So what was going on there? I was trying to get my brain wrapped around it. So Marty held the wrong one. And which survey or what section was he located in?
He was in Green County in section 25.
He was in section 25.
Yeah,
Okay. And what did he do? Hold the
he held
west,
A19
he held A19
as the east quarter.
and then I followed suit.
Just following his survey, but neither one of the surveys had both corners. Neither one of them talked about, oh, we're disagreeing, this is the wrong corner and we're holding it, blah, blah. And you can tell from the breakdowns of the proportionate lines all through there, it's pretty clear at this point. it's not the 5-foot one.
It makes you feel any better, Eric. There's one on the line I'm doing right now, on the county line, where I did the exact same thing. I followed Dave Meyer, and I now know that I took the wrong spikes for the wrong section. It doesn't really change the alignment, but very minute.
If I disagree with somebody about a corner, I would call them and talk to them about it, but I didn't call Eric because I didn't feel like we were disagreeing. Because it was just a clear,
Yeah.
like, just a small mistake, not a disagreement.
Well, I need to make note of it.
Sorry, Eric. I should have told you. Even though like not a big deal.
Cause I'll make note of it in my file, so my come along later down the road,
It's,
they don't grab the wrong one again.
you want the
Mhm.
recording information?
Yeah, what do you got?
It was the Fowler Connor survey.
Martin.
Well, it's on the A19 tie. if you want it, but Green County 2021 3540.
2020.
I don't think I have a copy of it.
It's okay, Rachel. Now I know which one it is.
I did find that Parkus survey though, finally, that we're talking about. The 19. The skew on the north line, is the 19 that we talked about. You see that? He's got,
86, is it?
yeah. Strange. Okay, so back to section 30, the last corner that we haven't talked about is the east quarter. I had established this corner several years ago, and I set it where PK nail used to be. That that guy's name. I'll look it up. Brunemer. The Brunemer had set, and Brunemer had set the PK nail at I think at the intersection of the fence to the east and the center line of the road. And at that time with my other survey, I tied into Brunemer's survey and reestablished. And also the county had tied it off, but then it was a pending tie. So I had some ties from the county. And then I also had Brunemer's survey to put back that nail where the PK nail was. I'd set a mag spike then. And then when I went back 3 years later, the mag spike was gone from plowing or something. So I set it again deeper in the same place. It is not at the proportionate location.
I seen that. I seen a slight deflection in that line there, so
So
I figured that you had some other origin that you set it by.
First thing I looked at is like, why did you set that? It's not far of them.
I might have talked about how far it is from proportion.
Very thin.
I can't remember now. I know I agonized about a bunch when I first said it, but this time I didn't agonize. about it.
No, I mean, if it matches
We said it.
occupation, and it's close, I'm all for it.
Yeah, so I don't have anything else to talk about in 19, I mean, in 30. I mean, at C19, that stone, I had found it like leaning over and stood it back up in the same hole.
That's a pretty,
Which makes those bearings even more weird, the ones that match up so perfect there with Ramsey's rebar. Just thinking about that, but. Do you have any questions, Todd? You look like you're thinking.
Oh, no, I'm actually. One.
You guys want to do 31?
We can do 31.
The west quarter of 31 is a marked stone that's been tied off previously and accepted by lots of folks. No issues with it. It's 4 feet east of an established fence. That's the stone at, on the east side of Green County Chapel Cemetery area.
Okay.
I know you've
Yep,
been
yep,
there.
Been there.
The east quarter of 31 is a pipe that's, I don't remember its origin anymore, or if we know it, but it's been used for a long time and tied off by the county previously. The southeast quarter of section 31, I don't think there's actually accepted monument record for that one. There is an accepted monument record for the Indian Creek corner, Pleasant corner to the east. The southeast of section 31 was set. Gosh, I don't remember his name either.
Might be,
Ben Wilson in 2007, using physical evidence of existing county roads.
Dan Wilson.
And then it was held in 2008 by Phil Tapp and then by Matt Badger and Randolph Compton and Harry Jones, Justin Ballard, Steve Ramsey. So, and by Phil Tapp a bunch of times from some surveys in that area.
Didn't know Ben ever made it down here to Monroe County.
He didn't, he would have come down here a lot.
Nah, I wouldn't think. He was sat around Cloverdale's where he lived.
so I was gonna say, it wasn't tied off by the county surveyor's office, but we did have a pending record that
Yeah.
was draft, which unfortunately we didn't track that the best. Did you ever find out if it was tabled? So
Oh, I
not-
assume it was tabled.
I eventually started to write table in black ink on top of it to indicate when it was tabled, but that was, after a while, was this 2008, 20, so it might have been right around the time I started to mark him if it was tabled. Because we didn't really have a good process of bringing them back to the board, so
Yeah.
just wanted to touch on that since you kind of lightly touched on it, and then we came back and conducted some more work out there. And just, this is what
Did
we
that actually, that didn't.
know if this
get
was
approved,
pending
right?
too, so we never, I don't know. I don't think we took it to the board because we would have called, but tabled on here in the name of the file itself. And that's not there because it doesn't say
I
table.
think we just didn't, at that time, didn't know the history of it, so I didn't feel like I could bring it to the board.
Right.
With it being not previously tied off and not having any history. It's not in the fence line, but you can see if you're looking at the tie sheet, it's fenced on like this. It's it's about 4 feet north, 4 feet north of the fence. So in somebody's kind of wooded yard. If it was tabled in 08, it was probably just one.
It was found, but I have printed date as well.
Okay,
Which kind of,
that would make sense
which
with all the
doesn't- that wasn't necessarily the exact date I drafted it. So
Yeah.
like the best to start alluding to kind of when it was first printed, I started using the printed date. So in between 08 and 12 is, so I could pull up the field book if it's
I
important.
don't think it's important. I mean, it could
Still doesn't-
have come to the board and been tabled as, well, this is just a bunch of I-69 stuff holding this, so we don't think this is good enough. I don't know, but it has been held by boundary surveyors working in the area as well as interstates. I don't have any issue with it. I've lost track of where I'm at though. Okay, going to the south border. Section 125, C25 is a big drill steel. I'm calling it a drill steel because that's what Steve Ramsey called it. It looks like
What that is.
a big iron pipe, but Steve worked for the quarry for all those years. I feel like he would know what a drill steel was,
Yeah.
and I don't, so I just believed him. He could have even been the one that said it.
So was it like that big around and with a small diameter hole in the middle of it? Yes, sir.
Corner.
It's a drill steel?
It's a drill steel.
You know what a drill steel is too? Yeah. Well, I do too now, but,
That's what they used to drill the hole in the limestone.
Mm-hmm.
okay,
Yeah,
so it is a
cameras.
quarry thing.
Yeah.
Well, and Steve had done surveys directly to the northeast of this. So he's like, if I could put it-
We better look at that so we know what to call some of these things I never heard of before.
here's the pictures.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, the first record of his 93 Ramsey survey. And then he held it again in 2017. So yeah, he definitely might have been the one to cut it, but I don't know that.
That's a new one for me.
It's 2 feet from the fence.
Drills.
And that was tied off previously though.
Yeah, I have it right here,
Yeah.
side by side.
Um,
Also, I just generally think the public would like to see what this looks
the
like.
drill still it.
Yeah, or at least the two people or one person that's still following along outside of Don.
Township Corner wasn't actually part of the contract because we did it last time, so Mark Stone.
Josh.
And then the center is a little bit funky. It's funky by 1 foot, and what's going on there is calculated the center at the intersection of opposite quarter corners, the same opposite quarter corners that are shown on the survey. But then he accidentally set the rebar at 103.60 foot off of that line. The rebar farther south at 105.53 is another tap rebar is on the line. And then there was an I-69 surveyor who came, or some NDOT surveyor, I don't remember if it was I-69, came through and he found the tap rebar at 103.60, a foot offline, and said, I'm going to hold this because it's the monument that's, right there close to it. And so instead of calculating it at the exact intersection, we held that tap rebar. And then Eric and Todd have both followed suit. So I also calculated it because it's on a blind hill in the middle of state highway that's super dangerous right there. But I calculated it based on that tap rebar instead of the straight intersection. So that is C23.
Did Tap say he set it a foot off? or-
No, that was a mistake.
Difference between GPS measuring today and EDM back then.
I don't know, his other rebar's right on line,
Closer.
like right on line. So I think it was
Blunder and layout.
some sort of mistake in the layout. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, from the sombrero.
It is within the sombrero, yeah.
Come this way, half a foot. Guy measures back a half foot, drives it.
Yeah.
I mean, since it was calculated, I was on the fence about that one. I did talk to Mike about it.
I wouldn't have set another one a foot away, no way. Especially not on a bad road.
Well, I wasn't setting it either way, but I just calculated to match all the. other
Yeah.
surveys.
Yeah.
So I think we talked about all of 31 now. If you guys want to talk
Okay.
about anything in more detail.
I think it's a good job explaining everything.
I guess I'll just mention the one thing that, actually, this was an initiative that, me and Rachel, had talked about when she was serving as the PCS surveyor's office about what can we do to reduce some of the risk of surveyors traveling busy intersections. And this is kind of something I think that highlights those efforts that we're taking both internally, but also really want to just extend the appreciation of also doing that within these kind of service agreements. Because I think whatever we can do to reduce any risk of folks getting out there, that we're going to attempt to do that.
We probably could get a county deputy in some situations.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it allows.
the idea is if
Yeah.
we set it this time, then the next person might feel that they need to uncover it. And if you just never set it, then
Yeah.
nobody ever has to uncover it.
Set some reference monuments
Everybody
off
can
to the
shoot the
side.
witnesses where they can
Yeah.
shoot the quarters or
Yep,
I'm for that.
whatever.
Yep, absolutely.
that's a dangerous spot.
Because it's going to get asphalted over. Now we're out there with a chisel.
In like a really hard,
My guys were out there this area just today,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
In the highway.
right there on the highway, yeah.
Didn't mean to jump in front of there, but from my take, there wasn't any additional questions or follow-up, so.
No, I'll make a motion.
Oh, okay. Please do. I will just indicate that we were looking at 30 and 31 together, but not the north line of 30 because that was approved prior. And I'm sure you're following along, but figured that would be possibly helpful with everything that we're covering.
And not the township plan,
What's that?
and not the township plan. There's no monument record for that.
So we're skipping. Yes, I'll make a motion to approve Van Buren A19, C19, E19, A21, C21, E21, A23, C23, E23, C25, and E25. I said skip the township.
Can we-
Did you say Van Buren E19?
E19, yes.
We did it last time, so there's not a new question.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
I'm going to cover these just one more time. Todd, if I say incorrectly, please let me know. We have a motion to approve Van Buren A19, A21, A23, Van Buren C19, C21, C23, and C25. Van Buren E19, E21, E23, and E25. Did I restate that motion?
That is correct.
Okay, and the second still on the floor. With that, I will go ahead and do a roll call vote. Eric Deckard,
Yes.
Todd Bergman,
Yes.
Rachel Ozer.
Let's see.
All right, we have 2-0 and 1 abstention pass. That includes certification of corners. And I will indicate that we are at 5-9 and we'll move to a discussion. I'm hoping that maybe we could try to keep discussion pretty concise and tight, because I think there's still a lot of kind of thoughts and also discussion that needs to occur within the surveyor's office and also with county planning. Would you give me that copy? Sorry, I didn't grab it.
Oh, the agenda?
Right here. No, it's that one.
Oh, that.
So I guess I want to first start with the discussion by kind of talking about how things precipitated. So I've already mentioned in, 2006, when I took the leadership role, and also try to wrap my head around, a good approach of perpetuating out the county after serving as chief deputy for 12 years. I knew that, we really needed to tighten the standards that we kind of had to really kind of dig in certain areas and really do our best to perpetuate this county. And by doing that, that was creating the professional surveying position. And then fortunately enough, having someone in the office and then working kind of with them to kind of really establish how we're going to continue to move things forward. Part of that, knowing that we had a PS and they had a lot of expertise, we started to assist planning. One of the county surveyor's role is to serve on the plan commission. Also within the subdivision control ordinance, there's a final subdivision plat, which basically is very vague. It just alludes to that the surveyors adhere to, the administrative code of the competence of a professional land surveyor. So 865. So with that, we started working. There was a lot of different things that we caught. We had pretty extensive kind of review process to assist planning. Over the years, we shifted some of that over to planning. There's been a lot of different, changes of personnel in there. And also, I still scratch my head. How are they ever going to make sure that all this adheres to certain codes, being planners and not surveyors? So when I was able to get another PS in the office, we got back involved with looking at these. A lot of our goals was to make sure that things were consistent with the records prior to the PS, but having an expert, we were able to kind of evaluate and extend that service to planning. And so we kind of went back to the old checklist. Now, I know there's a lot of questions, and there's also, I think the elephant in the room is just the way that we got here today with the perpetuation effort and some of the practice being conducted within Monroe County. And I touched on it several times today that, to move forward, I think is to continue to work as a united front in trying to address some of these concerns and kind of, have this review board so we can really, continue to perpetuate the county and create documents that really detail the work that other surveyors have done. We're always going to find ourselves in a position where, a surveyor may disagree with another surveyor, so they make quasi-judicial decisions. I think I've made it pretty apparent that, I respect that. That's why I want to make sure as I conduct service agreements that it's not based off of how we feel about the survey, but you perform the work and we're going to issue payment and then we'll bring it to the review board for certification. So, we're not guaranteed that any of that's going to necessarily pass the board. And I think that again, just respects, the profession and, so with that, I think my hope is to kind of sit down with planning, work with them, figure out a better way of communicating where we're really getting things that can help our effort with perpetuating out the county. I don't want to potentially stifle the ability to move forward. And I definitely don't want to continue to compound situations either. And I think that just really puts this office in a precarious situation. But, the goal is to do it, the perpetuation effort to the best of our abilities. And also assist planning where, we do have the expert to help with that. And I'll also say that planning has extended their interest of working with the board with certain issues that pertain to the new CDO. So, that I think really starts to create more of a collaboration of different disciplines and really getting documents like ordinances and such, to a state where, people can really get behind and it's not, maybe, for instance, when they were talking about a certified plot plan being performed by an architect. It's like, hey, architect can't certify a location, you know? And they started working with surveyors and really figured out, I think, that's just another way to show that this effort working towards kind of really kind of strengthening, you know, our perpetuation efforts, but then also the relationships where other things impact the profession, and being able to have a voice. So, you know, I think we have some things that we need to discuss. I think, you know, our whole approach is based off of the ordinance itself. And, you know, I think there's certain ways that we need to communicate those, but also I want to make sure it's known that we're very open and available to talk through certain things. And there's also certain areas where the state of the perpetuation of this county is going to be quite interesting, let's say. And let's just, and I'll only speculate once on this. Let's say that pertains to how much work has to be conducted, and it's just a small parcel that wants to get their property surveyed because they want to kind of do it correctly, and the extent of work that has to be done is infeasible. And let's say that the reason they want to build the fence is because they have a hostile neighbor. You know, I want to make sure that we balance this and understand the nuances. And I do feel like the county is in a position to really try to provide as much assistance as they can to help righten the ship on some of these scenarios, but also work alongside, you know, the professionals to really figure out the best direction forward. That's kind of my take on it. I'm kind of being a little vague because, like I said, there's still, what I really want to hear is everyone's kind of thoughts and opinions. And, you know, I don't know if this will be the right place or form for that, but I also want to say that there is no definitive way that we're going to move forward. And, you know, I want the feedback to really kind of filter into some of our decision making so we really can kind of continue to move forward. And like I said, you know, perpetuate out the county in a higher level of standards and mitigate any potential issue that we can, but also not compound scenarios that do exist by just moving forward and not addressing them. So, and I don't know if we want to do this as a forum or if we might want to just kind of think that over as, you know, that, but also, like I said, this is, I think, another sign that, you know, I'm willing to have these discussions. It's on the agenda. And, you know, we'll never kind of work in a vacuum. And so I'll leave it there.
I guess, you know, I mean, I felt that you spoke a lot about the perpetuation and the importance of the perpetuation and really kind of left a lot of the meat on the table there about the discussion about the plat review. I kind of felt that there was more that you wanted to say about the plat review. If it's a better time to handle it at the time when when we can handle this all as professionals and discuss, you know, how to move forward on a platform that necessarily doesn't have to be public, and we can discuss it amongst ourselves. How do you move forward with platting? How we're going to move forward with the new CDO coming up? You know, what does this look like?
Right.
So I don't know that this is the right platform.
And I think that the main thing there is we're still trying to kind of filter out everything. So like not having a kind of a firm position of, hey, this is how we're going to roll things out. It kind of just leaves it up to a lot of just kind of thoughts on the matter. And I think when we're in a better place and we haven't chatted with planning about how to move forward either, it kind of leaves no pun intended, a little uncertainty of how we're going to move forward too. Because one of our main goals is to help assist planning, but again, we also don't want to potentially put us in a position where, you know, it seems like we're trying to do more than assist planning and perpetuate out the county. So it's just like, again, I guess a tricky thing to navigate and balance. And, I don't want to chase my own tail too much on here, but, I think there's an opportunity to help educate planning. I think there's an opportunity maybe to put together another checklist like we did when the prior PS was in the office, and kind of give that ability for them to do the review again. But again, it's a head scratcher to even understand that, like, the way that they kind of do that is by kind of just vaguely, citing the administrative code and, not necessarily having the expertise to review all of those nuances.
Can I jump in there?
Please.
I don't know if you would be able to find that checklist that we
do. That's the one
That we had-
started one. Yeah.
we gave them, not the in-house one, but the one we gave planning.
Oh, I don't know.
Because-
That's when Jason Akins was there.
There was an in-house checklist, and then I was like, I'm just gonna look and see if section corners match what's in our records, and planning can check this other stuff. Here's what we'll have planning check, and the idea was for it to be stuff that they could check without
Right.
being surveyors. So it was like,
Mhm.
is there a report or a reference to a prior recorded survey?
But-
Some just like basic stuff like that. It wasn't detailed analysis or anything.
I'm not too sure, but I think if we did something like that, we would want to bring that checklist here to kind of get some.
I'm sure I could help you find the one that
Well, I
we
mean, I'm sorry.
sent them initially.
I'm kind of with Eric on this. I mean, I do think that there's things that need to be discussed. But I think maybe reaching out to just not only us, but all other surveyors, and get feedback, and then bring the feedback together and maybe meet outside of a public forum first. And then, when we actually come to a public forum, give our results, what we think the best is.
Right. And I think some arching guidance from our office of what we're attempting to do would be helpful. I think if we talk about putting things in the ordinance, we have to be somewhat light on that, because those can be more strenuous than what rules you already have to follow. Right.
Anything, I would prefer nothing to be in an ordinance.
Right.
Well, right.
And I'm saying, like the fact that, we've kind of had correspondence with surveyors and stuff, if we, planning starts, potentially digging into every nuances, is that a better direction? Or do we need to work with them so we're all really actually able to meet the intent of what all of this matters? And I agree with you, like that. I was talking about, we should move this maybe to where the profession is, and where the ISPLS is, and where the Hoosier Hills chapter is. We're all members of it. We could all attend it. I've yet still ever attended one of those, and I hear that there's free pizza or,
There's not.
buffet.
Oh, that group's much cheaper.
All our money goes to scholarships. Girl gets to spend on the
I would have been very disappointed.
No, has to get money.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Buy your own pizza. Buy us pizza.
In all
It sounds like right now, let's hold off on this conversation until we have more of a structure, and then maybe but also I want to mention that planning has asked to come to the board and talk about certain things, and I want to turn these into two separate discussions. So let me see if I got the first one. Is let's try to maybe move this more into a realm where it's about the profession, because essentially, that's where this comes into play, and us trying to assist planning and really kind of have those conversations. And then secondly, and do I have that right? Like right now, or kind of, and we're also available, like this has nothing to do with what we're doing here. So there is no concern. We're not certifying coroners. It has nothing to do with the surveyor review board and like the policy that created with the certifications or the rules of procedure. So we can have, discussions one-on-one with folks about this. All of us can be available, and we can kind of talk about these and talk about certain nuances that, could really provide good feedback for us as we try to really figure this one out. I've always knew that at some point we're going to have this impasse because I've been in the surveyor's office going on about 20 years in March. And I knew one day if we were really going to do this and really try to do our absolute best, we were going to hit this impasse. Now, there's certain things that affect the actual physical location of the section corner. And then there's certain things that impact, the final subdivision plat ordinance. And, those are the things I think we need to tease out. And so I'm thinking I want to offer the ability for anyone to come chat with us. And two, I think that's kind of where we're at. I don't want to speak for the group, but if so, then we can figure out a better venue to have this conversation.
I guess I would throw out like the Hoosier Hills chapter only meets every other month. It's really sparsely attended and not a lot of people that work in this area come, only Eric and I. So I kind of think that it would work better to do a invite or something. You have plenty of space here. If you invite all the surveyors you know of that work in the area, that everybody who's reported a survey in the last 3 years or something, like you all want to come, or just people that want to talk about it. I don't know, something, but I just think that a meeting at Monroe County about Monroe County makes more sense than a dinner meeting with a bunch of people from out of county where it's going to be really hard to have the focus or enough time to really talk about.
I would agree. I think that we ought to just schedule a meeting where, not just the board members, not just this group, but, to reach out to the others even in the surrounding counties. I've had surveyors in the surrounding counties reach out to me, on things like this. And I say that's how we ought to handle that part of it. And as far as, discussing the ordinance, we can discuss the ordinance, separately. As far as what is the new ordinance?
I
What is
would like
planning
to have
want to see with us? Because I know that the planning department has reached out to me and says, hey, we'd like to have some of your input with this new CDO.
Right.
I'm down with that.
I would like
This is our chance to talk about how we want to have things moving forward in the future in the new CDO.
And to that point, I would like to have those at the surveyor review board because there will be an official record. And if the profession disagrees, there's the opportunity to state that.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
But it's got to be very structured, not to I guess go down some of these rabbit holes that.
Because we did, what, was it 7, 8 years ago? We had, I think it was Larry and Dave at one of our
That didn't
meetings.
go very good.
Oh, with the administrative subdivision?
No, we tried.
Was it the or and? It was the and or, and they were like, we're not going to change it.
I think if you do a surveyor review board meeting for that purpose, you could call it as a special meeting,
That's just.
that's the only agenda.
And I'm going to let planning.
Actually invite all the others. And in terms of who to invite, maybe you just take the list of local surveyors on your website and that's the people who stated they want to work in the county and that's who you invite, those
Yep.
companies.
Yep.
And then you
Maybe
don't
some
have
other
to,
county surveyors, see how they handle things.
if you wanted to, but I mean, you have,
This is for the CDO though.
No,
Okay.
So
Pretty unique.
are you talking about the CDO now?
I'm actually talking, both things in terms of who to invite, just invite the people on the list.
Yep.
But I was saying, if you're doing a CDO meeting and you want it to be a surveyor review board meeting, I would say that's the only agenda item.
Yeah.
Then
Absolutely.
you don't need to have planning on the first meeting, maybe the first, but also invite everybody, not just these 3
And
board members, but the whole list.
just pick out a couple of suggested items, because we're only going to be able to digest so much information in that little time slot is what we're going to have to do with respect to the CDO.
And I did think we would have someone here today, but we didn't. And Donna's not here. But yeah, also, I would make sure that, before we had planning to discuss anything as far as a plat review or something, that we kind of formulate approach forward. And if I do think that that would be kind of a question because they do appreciate some of our assistance on things. And sometimes it's just kind of, a quick, oh, by the way, or sometimes it's more in depth.
But
But-
they don't give any budget though, right?
Huh?
Like they don't give you any budget
No,
to spend time reviewing plats.
no.
So if it's not pertaining to section corners, like, where is the money coming from? If it's gonna be a big time, if you're gonna have to spend a
Well,
lot.
that's why it's 75-25 split. So there's more of a broad scope of work as far as where the PS is, but
Well,
I
just
think we're getting-
throwing that out there of if it's
We're-
gonna be a big involved thing and you're doing a lot to help planning,
And can I
just
make
keep it in mind that,
what our foresight is, right? And I mean, as far as what we're trying to get done, as far as the perpetuation and stuff, we don't want to see that to go to the wait side. I mean,
But
I've
you're
seen
saying
that-
that's
I've
only
seen this board
25%.
evolve in the past 20, 25 years.
As far
I've
as,
said.
yeah,
And
75.
I'm pretty proud to see where the board sets at now compared to where it was at, back in '99 and 2000. I mean, we've come a long way. But that all being said, she's right. You got to watch that we don't get railroaded at what our agenda is, and that's the perpetuation. This should be kind of the forefront. And then we can help planning when planning needs some assistance from us. This is our opportunity as a public to speak out about the new CDO and what we can see that may be concerning to us as professionals moving down the road. And we definitely don't want to set guidelines for ourselves that either planning or another department then has control of what is our opinions and what we're licensed to do. And the survey department now having a land surveyor on staff, it is somewhat a little more rare than what I've seen in the past. I mean, but Rachel was the first LS that I seen actually set on the board in a very long time, or with the surveyor's office.
So-
And so, if that was to have a hiatus in it, with not having a land surveyor, and then we're gonna have somebody else trying to review it from the outside and trying to interpret these rules, they're not gonna know.
So you bring up a lot of good points.
Did I make sense to you?
Well, yes, and also, I mean, like they're talking about being a rarity, we may set these rules and, in 5 years, 10 years, we may not have an LS in here. So then all those rules have to be reset because you didn't have a qualified person
Right.
doing the work.
Right.
they already
No,
have to contract out to
Yeah.
have the work done.
And that's, and I know like they do that with engineering here. I just think that's a road we definitely want to avoid.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree, but
Well, for instance, we've gone down that road with the county before with having a drainage engineer and then not. And then what do we do? Well, now we send all those to a outside service provider to look at them. So, I mean, they're still getting done, but like,
Hired people to do the job, then.
well, no. Because what it does, and I think this is one of my biggest hopes as a takeaway is what it does is in that example is that cost goes on to eventually the property owner or developer or what have you nots, right? So that just compounds the situation of the onerous burden of being a property owner or doing something in Monroe County. And I touched on that earlier. And so if we had a drainage engineer and they had the ability to do a bit extra work, if they went out there and verified if some of these conservancy areas that are closed contours are actually environmental features and reduces the amount of property that's tied up into that could then dig into their buildable area and limit what they can do or have to make them go through a variance process. That would then relieve some of that burden and the county could take on that cost because we do have someone that's hired and trained. And that's what we're trying to do here, but we need to figure out how to move forward because we hit a couple of snags, but we need to do it in a united front. And really, like my hope, I guess I'm just going to say as clearly as I can, is like I really hope that eventually we're saw as an asset to this community and to other folks to utilize. And it might cause a couple difference of opinions, but again, I think this is the opportunity that the county can invest in as having a professional to go out here and try to help address some of the issues that are here in the county with our perpetuation effort, where it's not going to fall on to a small property owner that just wants to build a fence, because at one point in time, maybe we're able to get that area perpetuated through a service agreement or from our in-house work. But how do we get there? And we're not going to get there tomorrow, and we're not trying to fast track it like that either. But that's another way that I see it. And how do we relieve that burden onto all the property owners here without putting the cost onto them, or another cost of bringing someone in? It expands the areas that we can focus on. It expands the way that we can provide assistance. So
are you gonna set up a meeting?
yeah, I mean, we're not going to sleep on this. We want to figure out the best way to really do it and do it to the best of our abilities and as fast as we can. So, we don't have little bumps in the road, if you will. And
I mean, how much due notice do we want to give? Just call a special meeting with this board?
Well, I thought we wanted to do
well, there's two different conversations. There's a
a CDO meeting with the board and the
Okay,
plat review, not with the board.
that's right.
Correct, yes.
That's right. That's how, so do you want to make a motion on how to structure or how?
well, we'd have to make sure planning's available. And
Well, we don't have to set a date with planning.
Couldn't we do the first meeting without them and just
yes,
have surveyors invited and
but that's a meeting that's going to be under the Surveyor Review Board. We'd have to, it could be a public meeting. But that doesn't pertain to our charge as a board, so that could just be a meeting that we could schedule. I kind of want to talk with
I'm just
Dave
I'm
Schilling.
confused about what everybody's actually wanting, I guess,
So we might have a meeting with surveyors off the record in the office here.
to talk about the CDO or the plat review.
Yes, and then we're happy to have a special, or just the next month, just have the CDO report. That's gonna be too late when it comes out in November.
These could be for future amendments.
Oh, okay.
Why does the CDO one have to be on the record? Or is it only when it's planning's also?
Doesn't
That it has,
necessarily, but I feel like it would be nice because let's say there's a bunch of different discussion and other plan commission members want to kind of listen in, then we have a record.
Or I'm fine doing, an off the record one for each to begin with, and then actually have a, template then for when we come to planning, we have our ideas and thoughts together already.
That doesn't seem to be the worst idea. Well, let me do this then. Eric, I don't think we need to establish another date. I think if that's the case, we'll reach out, see what time's available. The only thing that we are required is to make public notice and kind of have a agenda. And we can do that outside of establishing it today. If you're comfortable with that, I would like to kind of just move through the rest of these items,
Okay.
go to adjournment, and then I will say I will probably talk to Dave Schilling, and I'm pretty sure I'm accurate on this, but I just want to make sure that I'm safeguarding for not just us, but everyone involved. Because it doesn't pertain to anything that we'd be looking at as far as perpetuation efforts that, as you can see, that are on the certification there. It's more of a broad topic. And I think it's fine for us to bring in a meeting and have that outside of the Surveyor Review Board. If some reason they say no, advise against it, I'll reach out and let folks know. I don't see that, but at this point, I want to be certain. So I'm going to seek advisement from our legal liaison, Dave Schilling. And outside of that, I'll talk with planning about what's a good available time to actually have them chat with folks here in a meeting about the CDO. But I do think if there's no issues, we could also meet prior to that to kind of have kind of a game plan That's not just questions that they have for us, but questions you have for them, just like that new addition on the agenda, like questions from board members. I want to make sure it's an exchange of opinions and thoughts and not just kind of one person seeking input for one particular issue.
When is the CDO getting voted on? Do we need to fast track all of this?
Maybe. I'm going to talk with them. Like I said, they didn't show up today. So, if they're not available, then that's going to limit our ability. So, but it could also be,
It'll be approved.
yeah, 11/19 is the second hearing.
Really soon.
Well, we haven't even scheduled, unless they did it since I've looked this
We want our
morning.
input on something that's going to be approved.
I think they want the input for I can't speak to exactly their intent, but they mentioned that they would like to come and talk with the board about certain aspects of the ordinance.
So we need to have our
And it's not necessarily
week.
going to be adopted, but our next set public hearing is 11/19 at 5:30 in the Nate Hill room. But we'll see if the plan commission's ready to entertain a motion to make a recommendation or not. I'm still waiting to see how planning compiled public comments and feedback, and we're still setting the administrative meeting to discuss that. And like I said, unless it was set prior to the last time I checked, we're still looking at a date, so we can then publicly advertise that meeting and such. So I feel like we kind of I want to double check with Dave to make sure if we have any internal meetings that it doesn't violate any issues, because it doesn't really pertain to our charge as a surveyor review board. I'm just going to repeat myself several times. And then work with planning to figure that out. And if folks are available, we can do a special meeting to have that discussion with them. And as I mentioned, Todd, and if we're able to, if there's no issues, get folks together so we can kind of come in here with our own questions as well, for planning to kind of consider if we're having that CDO discussion. And with that, I think I'm safe to move on to public input. We have a member of the public here today. Is there?
Yeah, Scott.
Is there any? All right. We have adoption of our next meeting date, which would be November 19th, which for Scott's, I guess, edification, I hate that word, but I can't think of a better one right now. We try to match them up with our plan commission meeting. So that's why you see the dates around the same plan commission or administrative meeting, because there could be other business that the board members have. So this is our effort to kind of, be respectful of your time. So that's our next tentative date. If anything changes, we'll reach out. We'll reach out about trying to put together a special meeting once we kind of got a good sense if that's actually going to happen. And with that, I'll move to adjournment. So moved, maybe?
Yep, so moved.
All right, we're adjourned. And
I'm sorry,
let me.
you're confusing me a little bit. The internal meeting